Arms Warriors in Midnight are starting to look amazing, having increased cleaving pressure, even more bleed damage, and the return of a powerful spell that once wreaked havoc back in the day. In this video guide, we will go through what to expect in the next expansion, covering changes to each talent tree, and we will even give a thumbs up or down for each major change. Now, we don't know for sure when Midnight will launch, but for sure it will be at the start of next year. That means we still have at least 3 more months of the War Within, which is plenty of time to hit your goals this season. We recently updated all of our class courses for Season 3, giving you everything you'll need to rank up fast. Including videos on how to perfect your rotation or how to get the perfect opener, we cover everything you need to play just like a gladiator in PvP. We even take concepts like positioning and break them down into step-by-step guides. It's like questing, but instead of experience, you gain rating. We even offer a 14-day no questions asked money-back guarantee for those of you who just want to try us out. So after this video, be sure to click the link below for an exclusive discount to get started. First, we will be going over the general class tree changes, and there's a new passive talent in town, one that Warriors have long awaited for, a talent that could make you have an easier way to apply hamstring, and it's finally here with Javelineer. Oh wait, it only applies hamstring through your Stormbolt, Wrecking Throw, Shattering Throw, and Champion's Spear. What's frustrating about this is that the idea is right, but the fact that it's tied to abilities with such long cooldowns makes it totally lackluster. The whole point of passive snares is to, well, passively snare them, not snare them once every 30 seconds or every few minutes with spells that are used for other purposes. It's not too late, Blizzard! Make this talent work with a couple of rotational spells instead and watch all the Warriors rejoice. Don't worry though, there's some good news in the class tree, and one of them is the new choice between Intervene and Interpose. Interpose still allows you to charge to a party member, but instead of taking all physical melee and range damage, you now take 30% of all damage dealt to the target for 8 seconds or until a certain HP threshold. This can make an excellent alternative since Intervene is only good against physical damage. When dealing with casters or heavy dot pressure, you could swap to Interpose. With its low cooldown and strong damage mitigation, it can be one of your best defensives. Being able to switch between the two depending on what you face makes that a very nice talent choice. Next up, Honed Reflexes has received some big buffs. It now reduces the same cooldowns by 10% instead of 5%, and it also incorporates part of the old Concussive Blows talent, giving you 5% extra damage on targets you interrupt. This makes it a must-have talent, as it's far more powerful than before, reducing the cooldowns of important spells in any arena game, as well as a nice damage buff when you land your pummel. Speaking of new talents, we also have access to Field Dressing, which actually looks pretty decent as it grants 3% extra healing received and increasing your self-healing by an additional 10%. It's fairly decent, although Warriors don't have much self-healing. The extra healing intake can be nice to try and counteract dampening and make us a bit more tankier. There's also a new choice node between Berserker Shout and a new talent called Fearless. Berserker Shout is the same ability Arms Warriors have known and loved, which is essentially a tremor totem for Warriors that removes AoE fear effects from nearby teammates. Fearless, however, is a new spell with half the cooldown that removes all movement impairing effects. Further down the tree, you'll see a familiar talent that used to be in the spec tree making its way into the class tree. It's none other than Anger Management, a strong passive that reduces the cooldown of Colossus Smash for every 20 rage you spend. While a passive talent, it's massively impactful for Arms Warriors, as this is your key damage window where you can wreak havoc. It allows you to get Colossus Smash windows more often, which is your biggest win condition as a warrior, making it most likely a needed talent. Another spell from the spec-specific trees has made its way from the protection tree, which is Last Stand. It now acts differently, being a passive talent that triggers whenever your health drops below 20% HP, increasing your maximum HP by 30% and healing you for that amount as well. With a 4-minute cooldown, and depending on how bursty the meta feels, it could be a great talent or relatively weak. If you compare it to MOP gameplay, cooldowns like this were extremely powerful. Having extra HP when there isn't much burst damage around makes this type of defensive very strong. On the flip side, if you compare it to Shadowlands or the current meta, this defensive might barely make a difference. How effective it is will depend heavily on how damage scales in Midnight. Another new talent introduced for Warriors is Retaliation. It is a chance to deal damage to enemies within melee range whenever they damage you. This talent is very similar to Thorns from Druids that applies to all damage, but it only affects players near you. It's hard to tell whether this will be good or not until we see how powerful it actually is. If the damage adds up nicely, it could be a solid source of pressure, but if it's negligible, it may not be worth taking. Another notable change is Battlefield Commander making its way into the class tree instead of being a PvP talent. Not only will it likely be mandatory, but more importantly, it frees up a PvP talent slot for Arms Warriors. This is excellent, as Arms has quite a few powerful PvP talents that can now be used more freely thanks to this change. Although you might be wondering where the Thunderous Roar effect from Battlefield Commander went. Well, like a few other warrior abilities, it's been pruned for Midnight. This is a bit of a blow in terms of overall damage, but it's not going to change too much for Arms Warriors, just one less button to press during your burst window. Given all the changes to the general tree, the results are on average just okay. There are a lot of important talents you can't pick up later on, making it difficult to choose between them. Overall, the changes are decent, but nothing too amazing. With the important class tree changes out of the way, we can now go over the Arms spec tree and discuss the main changes here. One highlight is the addition of new or updated talents that strengthen Colossus Smash, which continues to be our main offensive cooldown. Several reworked and new talents will help make Colossus Smash even more powerful and help you reset its cooldown more often. Overall, you'll gain stronger Colossus Smash windows that occur more frequently. With Blade Storm extending it and a new talent reducing its cooldown even further, we can expect warriors to be dealing a ton of damage. While we did lose In for the Kill and Test of Might, the addition of these new talents looks promising overall. If Colossus Smash becomes even more impactful, Arms Warriors could find themselves creating winning conditions far more often. Speaking of new talents, there are a few that increase the power of your sweeping strikes. This further enhances the cleave pressure of an Arms Warrior, making it particularly valuable in two-target situations. Gaining more power here is nice as it adds to your cleave pressure, one of the defining strengths of an Arms Warrior. However, if you can't make effective use of sweeping strikes, these talents lose their value since they provide no benefit when you're only dealing damage in single-target situations. Overall, the spec tree looks promising in terms of damage potential, which is why we will give it a thumbs up. Midnight also introduces brand new Apex talents, which for Arms is called Master of Warfare. These talents revolve around Slam, as your Overpower procs will have chance to upgrade it to Heroic Strike. This deals a powerful amount of damage and will also add 3% armor penetration every time you Heroic Strike a target, stacking multiple times. Armor penetration is a warrior's best friend, as most of your damage is physical, meaning most of your abilities will be enhanced attacking into this debuff. Then each stack of Master of Warfare will increase your mortal strike damage and critical strike damage of it by 10%. This will be massively powerful, buffing mortal strike damage even more so, which looks like it can lead to massive hits. As already mentioned, the last talent will mean when this stack fades, you'll receive a cooldown reduction on your Colossus Smash for 5 seconds per stack. This can be massively powerful to getting more damage, but it may happen at moments when you have it at the ready. For the Apex talents, we'll give it a middle-ish thumbs up overall. It's essentially a new iteration of the Slam buff, and if it hits hard, it could be golden. The problem is that it might make other globals awkward to use, depending on the proc rate and how it fits into our normal rotation. With your spec tree covered, we can now move on to the new hero talents for both Colossus and Slayer. For Colossus, you gain Decimator and Celeritas Conclusion, granting extra damage buffs whenever you cast Demolish. Decimator allows Demolish to apply deep wounds to all targets, helping you maintain this debuff. Celeritas Conclusion gives you 10% increased haste and buffs the critical strike chance of your next mortal strike by 100%. This provides a solid damage boost, making your next mortal strike extremely powerful, especially when comboed with Sharpened Blade. Cut to the Bone also synergizes well with these talents, as your mortal strike critical hits increase your rend and deep wounds damage by 50%. This will trigger frequently after Demolish, serving as a reliable way to boost your burst damage. Moving on to Slayer, it features 2 excellent talents and one that's fairly lackluster. The weaker one is Deadly Focus, which extends the duration of Executioner's buff by 6 seconds. Honestly, this doesn't add much value since Execute procs often and is typically used on cooldown anyway. The other 2 talents, however, are fantastic. Violent Euphoria is one of them, giving you 15% haste after your Blade Storm ends. This is incredibly strong in this build as you can use Blade Storm frequently, resulting in more damage and significantly increased pressure. The third talent is the return of a familiar favorite, Unhinged. Every 2 strikes of Blade Storm procs a mortal strike on a random target within range. It's extremely powerful for a single target burst, making it worthwhile to fully channel Blade Storm to maximize the number of mortal strikes. While a few talents might feel a bit bland, most of the new additions add meaningful power to Arms, which is great to see. So we will give it a thumbs up, as most of the new talents will help increase your pressure. While nothing exciting, the passive talents will be nice in any game. So, what about the PvP talents for Arms Warriors? Surely there are some new ones, right? Well, there are no new PvP talents for Arms Warriors, but bear in mind that Battlefield Commander is now part of the general class tree. This means you effectively gain an extra PvP talent slot, since Battlefield Commander was previously a staple pick. With several strong options available, you can now trade it out for a powerful peeling tool to help keep your team alive. Strong contenders like Duel, Safeguard, Disarm, and Master and Commander come to mind here. Healing will continue to be one of your strongest assets as an Arms Warrior, and picking one of these talents can definitely help keep your team alive. With the addition of the new general talent Fearless, pairing it with Berserker Roar might become a new go-to combination for PvP. This synergy looks incredibly strong and will be especially useful against teams that rely heavily on long CC chains. So going into Midnight, even though the PvP talents themselves haven't changed much, we're still quite happy with them. Gaining a new PvP talent slot is always a welcome improvement, and most of the Arms Warriors PvP talents remain unique and powerful. Now, what is the overall impression for Arms Warriors in Midnight? Overall, things are looking pretty good. The damage bonuses appear strong enough to potentially push Warrior back into S-tier territory. However, survivability could still be a concern if Arms continues to struggle defensively. That might outweigh the offensive gains. And remember, every expansion skill capped helps thousands of players just like you hit their rating goals. Like Gizmo here, a Resto Druid hard stuck at Rival with over 5,000 games played, who gained over 600 rating in a few weeks just by using skill cap. Our damage and healing courses save you weeks or even months of your time, condensing down everything you need to know into bite-sized videos. You don't need to be scared to sign up because we have a rank up guarantee that promises you will gain at least 400 rating while using our service. So if you're serious about climbing, visit the discount link below to get started. Anyway guys, I want to thank you all for watching. See you soon.